October is here, everybody, which means it's the best time of year for baseball. The MLB playoffs officially start tomorrow. Cannot wait. Obviously, best time of year if you're a baseball fan. Nothing quite like October baseball. So we do this every year on the channel. We do our annual playoff bracket challenge where I usually horrendously try to predict who's going to advance to each round and obviously who's going to end up meeting in the World Series and who wins the World Series. Like I just said, most years my predictions are pretty far off, but that's not going to stop me. What does that mean, guys? In an unexpected 2023 season where a lot of the high spending teams missed the playoffs and disappointed, and unexpected teams like the Orioles made the playoffs and not only that, got the top seed. Maybe this year, in a year of unpredictability and wildness, maybe my wild predictions will actually come true. So regardless, it's fun to do. So make sure to comment your opinions, guys. Try it for yourself, the MLB Playoff Bracket Challenge on MLB.com. I'll link it in the description. But without further ado, we're going to try to predict who's going to win every series and who's going to end up meeting in the Fall Classic and winning the 2023 World Series. So we're going to start with the American League because it's going to go top to bottom here on this nice, convenient bracket here. So we're going to start with the Rays and Rangers in the Wild Card Series. Best 2 out of 3. I thought about this one for a while because I think the Rays are the better team. They've been better all year. I think, you know, they were right there with the Orioles, right? And I looked at the Rays statistically, and they don't really do anything poorly. They're really good at pitching overall. They're really good at offense. Most of the main offensive and defensive metrics, you look at pitching metrics, they're kind of in the top 10 of everything. So a really well-balanced team. But the Rangers, they also have that firepower on offense, but they really should have won the division, and they kind of they let the Mariners beat them 3 out of 4, and then the Astros beat the D-backs all 3 games to end the season, and somehow the AL West was stolen from them. That's gut-wrenching, really. I think the Rangers really could have used that bye, and now they find themselves with the best wild card team, I think, in baseball this postseason. And it's going to be a good one, close series, but I think the Rays are the slightly better team, and I think their pitching will probably help them edge out a victory in the series over the Rangers. But obviously in the wild card, anyone can win because it's only best 2 out of 3, and just baseball playoffs in general are like that. So the Rangers, I think, will put up a good fight. Their offense is dangerous, but I think their bullpen scares me a little bit. It's been shaky, especially after the deadline, ironically, when they got Chapman. But yeah, the Rays pitching I trust a lot more, so I'm going to go with the Rays to win this series. Let's say 2-1. I think it'll be a close series. Then we have the Twins and Blue Jays. The Twins won the awful AL Central this year, and they're difficult to figure out because they only have 87 wins. They are the 3 seed by default, and they do have good pitching overall. They're a very good pitching team, good starting rotation overall. Pablo Lopez, Sonny Gray, that's a pretty good 1-2 combination. The bullpen's good, but their offense does concern me, and they kind of have a bad matchup because the Blue Jays can also pitch very well. They have a really good starting rotation. They have 5 guys who I think are good enough in the rotation to start a playoff game. And also, the Blue Jays, I think, overall have better hitting. And the problem with the Twins is they don't really have that guy on offense, in my opinion. Unless Carlos Correa finally decides to play nearly as well as he's played in the past, which is possible. He should be good to go for the playoffs. But I really love the balance of the Blue Jays. I think they've underachieved a little bit this season. And I think that overall, they have the makings of a World Series contending team. And they remind me a little bit of the Phillies last year, where they underachieved during the regular season, you would think, but they have the experience, the star power, the overall balance to maybe make a run. So I will go with the Blue Jays to beat the Twins. Twins, a little unpredictable. I don't know what to expect from them, but I think the Blue Jays are the better team, so I think they move on to the divisional series. We're going to go down to the National League Wild Card Series before we get to the divisional series. Phillies and Marlins. Got a little NL East matchup here. Credit to the Marlins. I think Skip Schumacher should be the manager of the year for getting the Marlins to the playoffs. And the Marlins had a really good trade deadline. The addition of Jake Berger, Josh Bell, those were 2 great additions. They both played very well in Miami. But the Phillies are kind of a juggernaut and just a bad matchup for the Marlins. The advantage for the Marlins is they are in the same division, so they do know the Phillies well if they want to try to pull off an upset. Anything's possible, obviously, in the playoffs, like I said, in a 2 out of 3 wild card series, of course. but the Phillies are just going to be too much to handle, in my opinion, for the Marlins, especially on offense, because I don't think the Marlins offense can keep up with the Phillies offense, and the Marlins pitching is kind of middle of the pack. Not having Sandy Alcantara is going to hurt, and they don't have Eury Perez either, so they're going to probably have to rely on Jesus Luzardo and Braxton Garrett, two really good starting pitchers, but I just think it's awesome that the Marlins made it, but I think the Phillies are the better team, and they're going to be at home, which they have a huge home field advantage. We saw that last October, obviously, so I think the Phillies are just a little bit better overall. But I love that the Marlins made the playoffs. Great story. And hey, the Marlins, hey, let me tell you this, though. Don't underestimate the Marlins in the playoffs, because they've only made it 3 times before this year. First 2 times they made the playoffs, they won the World Series. And then the last time in 2020, nobody even thought they'd make the playoffs in 2020. Then they make it, advance around. They beat the Cubs in the wild card series. So they've advanced every postseason they've made, but I think that streak comes to an end here against the Phillies. Then we have the Brewers and D-backs. You know, a lot of people are really high on the Brewers as maybe being a dark horse World Series team because of how good their pitching is, and it's really good. They have the best ERA in the league, but their hitting is not at the level, I think, of a World Series contender, and I do want to try to have one upset, and I'm going to go with the D-backs to pull off the upset against the Brewers in the wild card series. I understand this is an unpopular pick, but I honestly like the D-backs hitting a little better than the Brewers. The breakout star rookie of the year guaranteed Corbin Carroll, but also Ketel Marte, Christian Walker. These guys have had all-star caliber years. I think they're hitting, and they've been sneaky all year. They find a way to win games that they probably shouldn't have won. Most of the year, they've done better than people thought. And this sneaky D-backs team, I think, is going to go into Milwaukee and win this series. Let's say 2-1. And then, by the way, I think the Phillies win both games, so if we're trying to predict the series. But I wanted to have at least one upset. I don't like the Brewers hitting that much. And in a 2-game series, there's a lot more potential for upsets. So why not go with the D-backs, who are just a young, fun team with not a lot to lose. So I feel like them not having a lot of pressure on them, despite being a young team, I think they'll advance. We're going to go back up to the divisional series. Orioles and Rays. Oh, man, this would be probably the best divisional matchup, but regardless, a great divisional matchup. 2 99-plus win teams. It was a close AL East race the whole year, but incredibly, the Orioles ran away with the division and won the thing, but now they have a really tough test against a more experienced Rays team. This Orioles team is young. The Rays, you know, they match up with them pretty well. They know each other well. So this will be a phenomenal series, but there's something special about the Baltimore Orioles, in my opinion. If you look at stats, it doesn't make a lot of sense. They're a pretty good offensive team, pretty good pitching team, but not the type of team statistically. It doesn't look like over 100-win team. But the Orioles have the best record in the American League in one-run games. They play well at Camden Yards, and I just think this team has some magic about them. I think they sneak by the Rays in 5 games and get to the ALCS, despite being a very young team. Then we have the Blue Jays and Astros. The Astros somehow won the AL West. It came down to the last day. They needed some help from the Rangers. The Rangers got shut out by the Mariners, 1-0 in devastating fashion for the Rangers, and the Astros stole the division incredibly. So here they are once again winning the division, but they face a Blue Jays team that, like I said, is tough, and I don't know what to expect from this Astros team because, yes, they're very good offensively still, very good pitching team. It's kind of the same old Astros statistically, relatively. They're a very good team, but they've been very inconsistent this year. They've played better in the second half, but then they've lost games. They've gotten swept at home to the Royals, and then they'll win games they need to win. So it's just kind of back and forth. They haven't been able to get really consistent at any point this year. So I'm going to go with the upset. I think the Blue Jays beat the Astros, and I think one of these years, the Astros are due to not get to the championship series because they've made it to the ALCS, I think, 5 years in a row, and I just think at some point they're due to not make it. And I really like the Blue Jays starting pitching. I like their bullpen with Romano and Swanson, and you know, it's a really good team. Meza, this is a really good team, and I think their hitting might wake up. It gives me, like I said, they remind me of the Phillies a little bit last year. A 6 seed that probably is better than a 6 seed, should be better than a 6 seed, little underachieved a little bit, and might get hot and positively regress at the perfect time. And the Blue Jays, I could see them doing that, and I think the Astros streak will eventually come to an end. and we'll see if it's this year. So I'm going to say it is. Blue Jays win, get to the ALCS, which sets up an Orioles, Blue Jays. Oh, whoops. I didn't mean to do that. I haven't picked anyone yet. But it sets up an Orioles and Blue Jays ALCS matchup. And then let's get to the divisional series for the NL. So Braves and Phillies rematch of last year. I really hope that this happens again. Last year, obviously, the Phillies pulled off the upset and beat the Braves in the 6-2 matchup. This would be a 1-4 matchup. Both teams are slightly better than last year, which means we could be in for an even better series. If there's one team that can upset the Braves in the divisional round, I could see the Phillies doing it. I think they have a much better chance than the Marlins would have. Phillies, they're a similar team to last year. They could do it again, but the Braves have a historically great offense. And like I said, I think they're better this year. And just what are the odds that the higher seeded team loses twice in a row to the same opponent? I don't think it happens this year. I think the Braves win an epic series. I think the Orioles beat the Rays for fun. Let's say they win 3-2 in 5 games. I think the Blue Jays beat the Astros in 4 games. And then I'll say the Braves beat the Phillies in an epic 5-game series, 3-2. So that gets the Braves to the ALCS, who have honestly been the best team in baseball all year long. So no surprise that the Braves get to the NLCS. So then we have a cool little NL West divisional matchup, D-backs and Dodgers. It'd be cool, in my opinion, as a Dodgers fan, to kind of see another NL West opponent. I think it'll create some extra headlines, and I do like the D-backs because I live in Arizona. Chase Field is like down the street from my apartment, so a couple blocks away. It's like right there. So it would be cool to see the D-backs get to this point, but I don't think the D-backs can beat the Dodgers or the Braves or whoever they would play. Well, they would play the Dodgers, but I don't think the D-backs are a CS level team. So I'm going to go with the Dodgers to win this series against the D-backs. I'm going to say they either win 3-0 or 3-1. I'll say 3-1. But yeah, the Dodgers hitting, I think, is going to be too much for the D-backs. And the Dodgers pitching, I think, is even better than the D-backs because, especially in the second half, I think post All-Star break, the Dodgers bullpen has been way better. It was a huge problem in the first half. But now they have one of the better bullpens. And the starting pitching is the biggest concern. But overall, I like their bullpen, and the Dodgers hitting is really, really good. So that sets up, I think, what a lot of people want to see, a Braves and Dodgers NLCS versus, and then a Blue Jays Orioles ALCS. So these are my final 4 teams. So let's start with the AL. So who gets to the World Series between the Orioles and Blue Jays? I think if the Blue Jays get to this point, they have a real shot to beat the Orioles. Another AL East matchup, but there's something special about the Orioles. I'm going to go with the Orioles to get to the World Series. Like I said, they're great in one-run games, and they're just clutch, and being at home is going to help a young team like the Orioles a lot, being in Camden Yards. They're going to fill out the place with orange. It's going to be raucous, just like it last was in 2014 when they last played, a playoff game at Camden Yards. And the Blue Jays, yeah, they could get to the World Series. Don't sleep on them. They're a dark horse team, but I just think it's unlikely that back-to-back years with this new format we see 2 6 seeds get to the World Series, and there's just something special about the Orioles. So I think they get to the World Series. So who do the Orioles play in the 2023 Fall Classic between the Braves and Dodgers? The series we all want to see. This would probably be the best series of the postseason. I think this is going to go 7 games, but I don't want to be too chalk. I don't want to say we're going to have 2 1 seeds. So the Los Angeles Dodgers, yes, I'm biased. Yes, I say this every year, but guess what? I'm going to say it again. The Dodgers get to the World Series. This is why I think they can get there. Because, yes, they both have great hitting. Braves have better hitting, slightly better, not way better hitting than the Dodgers, but the Braves have better hitting, obviously. Acuna is going to win the MVP. Olsen, historically great lineup, ridiculous lineup. But the bullpen edge goes to the Dodgers. The Dodgers have had a better bullpen, and honestly, overall, the Dodgers have had better pitching in the second half. And I know the Dodgers starting pitching, you have Bobby Miller, Kershaw, pretty good one too, obviously. Then starting at 3, you get kind of concerned. But also with the Braves, yeah, Strider, probably game 1 starter. Fried if he's healthy, but then the Braves face the same problem. They don't have that level of rotation depth that they might have had the last year or 2. So I think the Dodgers win a 7-game close series, and I just think in general, I don't want to have 2 1 seeds in the World Series, so I'm just going to go with that. So a Dodgers-Orioles World Series. Who wins the World Series this year? Well, the Orioles, just to get to the World Series would be amazing. They're ahead of schedule, far ahead of schedule. I just don't know if the Orioles are quite ready to win the entire World Series this season. So I think the LA Dodgers, in a year where people didn't expect them to do that well, didn't expect them to win 100 games, they've overachieved this season, and I think they're going to use that as motivation because it's kind of my reverse baseball logic. Last year, the Dodgers were the 1 seed, the favorite to win it all, but they lose in the divisional round. So I think this year it's the other way around. Maybe without as many expectations, not being the favorite. It's funny, baseball works like that sometimes. Sometimes it's unexpected. I think this could be one of those years where since they're not the favorite, they use that as fuel to get to the World Series and win it. So I'm going to go with my Los Angeles Dodgers to win the 2023 World Series. But honestly, the Braves could definitely win it, should be the favorites. Orioles can win it, Blue Jays, Dodgers, Phillies can win it. Don't sleep on the Phillies. Rays can win the World Series, and of course the Astros can win the World Series. Technically, if you're in, you have a chance, but I think there's a lot of teams you can argue get to the World Series and win it. So let's see what happens in what should be another amazing October. And this year, we could see as many upsets as maybe we've ever seen because in general, this entire season's been unpredictable, but I have loved it. So I can't wait, guys. Postseason starts tomorrow. Make sure to tune in and watch. I'll be locked in for sure. Comment your opinions. Let me know your postseason bracket if you try out the bracket challenge. Who do you have meeting in the World Series? Who's going to win your World Series? Comment below. Let me know. Like the video if you enjoyed, guys. Subscribe if you're a baseball fan and you haven't done so already. But guys, let's gear up because October's here and I'm gonna have a great time watching, and I hope you do too. So thanks so much for watching this one, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.